I found myself paralyzed in the darkness. Moonlight poured in through the window, illuminating the ceiling. My eyes were the only part of me that could move. Uh-oh, where was I? What was I doing here? My body was frozen in place like a statue. It felt like a nightmare was threatening to rear its head at any moment. Ooh, that was kinda loud for me. Out of nowhere, something shook the room. Oh god, I should have known it came again, but it still scared me. The impact shook the walls. There will be another BAM. Just prepare. Okay, no. Okay. Fuck you, game. Meanwhile, I could hear a faint sound in the distance. Am I the only one kinda turned on right now? Cause I don't know. Okay, bam. There it is. The explosive banging sounded like it was coming from the wall right beside me on the bed. By contrast, the source of the other noise, the sticky noise, was somewhere on the floor a few feet away. Scared as I was, I couldn't even scream. All I could do was lie there, shaking, unable to lift a finger. The banging grew louder as the sticky sound grew closer. So, are there two ghosts or how does this work? Then I realized it sounded like something was crawling along the floor. Really? Something wet, crawling on all fours. I don't get it, it says bam 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 bam, but there's only one bam. A tiny shriek escaped my lips, so you can move after all. I could see the wall moving out of the corner of my eye. What? Wait, no, it wasn't just moving. She was writhing around inside the wall, almost like she was trying to push through. So is she constrained by walls or something? Is she living inside the walls? I could barely groan. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't get the sounds out. It felt like something was strangling me. Then I saw it. Oh, what a cute tiny hand. Let's see the rest of the body, come on. So is she banging on the ceiling? The hand broke through the wall and clawed at empty air. Oh, okay, no, she isn't. No, maybe broke through wasn't the right way to describe it. An arm-shaped protrusion jutted out of the wall all the way to the elbow, like some kind of bizarre clay sculpture. Oh, that's another sound, a new one. The next thing I knew, the sticky sound had transformed into a dragging sound. Yet still, I was powerless to move. All I could do was look in the direction of the sound, directly to my right. The door to the next room came into view. Then I remembered I was in Daigo-kun's apartment. Creak! Creak! An icy chill shot down my spine. The door slid open. Beyond it, darkness. Another new sound. The same instant, something touched my shoulder. I looked over to find a clay sculpture reaching out from the wall. Its finger stuck into my skin. Just so you know, I tried to keep this humorous. Mostly for my sake, because otherwise I would be scared shitless. Meanwhile, whatever had opened the door was now headed my way. So there are two ghosts. Or maybe it's just Daigo playing a prank. I could see a dark shadow crawling its way up to the bed. That's definitely him. What it was I couldn't say, but the tendrils of darkness wriggled their way closer. Sounds like the plot of a hentai. Really. I choked out the words in a tiny, useless whimper. It didn't sound that tiny and useless. I mean, it was. Let's listen to that again. Okay, we can't. Well, meanwhile, the clay hand clamped down tighter and tighter, hurting me, breaking me, caressing my skin. The cluster of shadows slowly moved on top of me. crushing me, freezing me. The darkness pressed against my belly, pulsing as though it were alive. It throbbed hard as if... Oh my god, did the game really just... Okay, it throbbed hard as if to say, this is where I stay. I don't even need to be funny, the game is funny by itself. Then the real nightmare began. It's digging inside! The shadow began to press hard against my stomach like it was trying to burrow its way inside me. That's not where you enter, Mr. Shadow-kun. Cold, crushing pain flared up from deep inside me, shooting from my pelvis to my spine. Okay, crushing my abdomen. I guess it must be horrible, but I just can't take it seriously anymore at this point. A primal fear enveloped me. It's taking over! Wait, so it's trying to possess her? Me? Whatever? That fear far outranked any shadowy phantasm. Instantly my voice broke free of its constraints. RIP everyone listening to this with headphones, because Jesus Christ, I think I'm deaf now. With that, the pressure on my stomach vanished, along with the pain in my shoulder. The shadow skittered away, and the next thing I knew, I was blinded by a bright light.
Kae-san! Kae-san!
So it came for us even though we were in Daigo's apartment. I could hear someone calling my name, but I couldn't answer. My limbs finally freed, I buried my face in my hands, and felt someone pull me into their arms.
Kae-san! 大丈夫か? Kae-san!
そんなにわめかないで。頭痛い。
I remember when I thought that this game was only 2 hours long. I don't know what the fuck happened, but I must be at 3 hours and more. And we still haven't made any headway into how to solve this fucking ghost problem. My ears were ringing. Someone leaned over me, shielding me from the bright light. I slowly opened my eyes to find Daigo-kun looking back.
Kae-san. よかった.
Relieved, Daigo-kun leaned back. Then the fluorescent lightning blinded me again and I squeezed my eyes shut.
大丈夫. 起きられる?
Daigo-kun helped me into a sitting position. He still smelled faintly of alcohol. What? The clay sculpture was gone, as was the shadow that had been crushing my stomach. Take a look at it, see if it left a mark or something. Come on. Relieved, I looked around the bedroom and saw beige curtains. I realized I was lying on a steel pipe bed.
何ですか?
Rubbing his eyes, he looked around the room, seemingly confused. Then he froze. Evidently, he'd noticed it too. No answer. Instead, Daigo-kun got up and flung open the door to the next room. A familiar-looking sofa. A work desk. A pile of broken down cardboard boxes in the corner. We're not in Daigo-san's apartment! There was no mistaking it. We're in our own apartment. This wasn't Daigo's apartment.
201ですかね.
How? Just how the fuck? I mean, this is coming as a surprise for me as well, since I just started a new session, so I didn't quite know where we left off last time. And it just jumped right into this fucking nightmare sequence. And apparently we're not where we were supposed to be. This is true horror, I'd say. His voice was tense. He should have noticed, or was he asleep as well? I was sure we'd gone to 301 after we got home from La Mer. I distinctly remember Daigo-kun pulling out the key and unlocking the door. There was simply no way we could have come in here by mistake. And yet here we were, in 201. Hesitantly I scanned the wall and stopped. It left its mark, definitely. Why even return to this fucking apartment complex?
何が?
Just sleep somewhere else. I pointed at the wall. Hello, I'm the stain on the wall. The stain was larger than I remembered. The bed was shaking. Whoa. No, it was me, I was shaking. I heaved myself to my feet, knees quaking, and walked over to the pile of cardboard boxes. I grabbed one, then grabbed my packing tape and returned to the bedroom. Then I began to tape the cardboard over every inch of the bedroom wall like a woman crazed. Fuck me, she lost it. Kae is officially crazy now. As for Daiko-kun, he helped me in the task all without a word. He's also crazy. Did I slip into a bad end? There were no choices in this game. I needed to hide the wall. I needed to make sure that Hand couldn't reach out at me anymore. Once we'd covered the whole wall, we grabbed my computer and headed upstairs to 301 before sunrise. It would just go to another wall. Right? That's how it moves, apparently. I guess, at least. It was the dawn of the 4th day. When I awoke, the sun was already high in the sky, but I was relieved to find that I'd actually woken up in apartment 301 this time. I got out of bed and quietly stepped into the living room. It was dark, with faint rays of sunlight streaming in through the gaps in the curtains. Oh, I miss summer, where sunlight definitely does stream in through the curtains and stuff. I love winter, don't get me wrong, but it can just get so depressing without enough sunlight. As I gently opened the curtains, the morning light made me squint. I looked out across the balcony at the empty lot next door. Hopefully Daiko-kun hadn't minded me crashing here another night. I wasn't his girlfriend, or even his friend, just a stranger. Well, you're his sister-in-arms against this fucking ghost, so I'd say this goes even further than friends, or girlfriends even. You're fighting a fucking ghost, if you haven't gotten it at this point. Jesus Christ, how dense can you be, Kae? Just a neighbor with whom he happened to share a wall. I turned and looked behind. There I could see the hallway leading to the front door, as well as the door to the other room. Oh, pardon me. Evidently Daiko-kun wasn't awake yet. Careful not to make a sound, I tiptoed down the hall to the bathroom. The layout was exactly the same as mine. The sink was of modest size, with a nice big mirror and a little handheld shower nozzle. I stared at my pale, haggard reflection. Do we get a picture as well? It had only been 4 days, and yet I felt like I'd aged 40 years. Fuck. What? I was still wearing the same clothes I'd worn to the club yesterday. Could it have all just been a dream? Maybe I just wanted to believe that it was. I gingerly squeezed my shoulder. Oh, a slight pain shot through my arm. I pulled down my collar to find a big red bruise waiting for me. Fuck, okay, so this thing can actually touch humans. Hesitantly, I touched my stomach over my shirt. Look at it. It didn't hurt, but something didn't sit right with me. I lifted my shirt up, and sure enough, I could see that the skin was faintly flushed. Shoulder and stomach. Somehow these marks felt completely separate from one another. I knew there were 2 ghosts in there. And I think one of them is trying to kill the other one or something. Maybe even trying to protect them? I don't know. Something deep down was telling me that perhaps there wasn't just one curse in 202. I called it. I fucking called it. One is his sister, and the other one is this former mistress of this dude. I washed my face, and right as I grabbed my keys to go pick up a change of clothes, Daiko-kun popped out of the study. He didn't look well rested. Rubbing his puffy eyes, he stepped into the kitchen.
よく眠れた?
Well, what do you think? Well, that's some nice music. I wasn't sure I'd slept so much as passed out. There was a certain sluggishness in my body that suggested no rest had been had. I know that feeling. I was in no position to complain, however. Fucking Japanese, always being polite, huh?
それは別に全然問題ないんですけど。カエさんって実家はどこですか?
They're dead!
実家は山陰の方よ。
Okay, they're not dead.
山陰。中国地方ですか。ってことは遠いんですね。
Even if they were closer, they were in no position to help me. After all, no one had lived in that house for years now.
そういえば妹さんは?
What? No one had lived in that house for years now? What?
隣の市に住んでる。
何か事情がありそうですね。
Yeah, because of work, I guess. Oh, there was a reason, alright. Also, she's a little bit of a bitch, I think. Shuko lived in a tiny studio that was nowhere near big enough for 2 people. Worse, she was so busy that she rarely had time to clean the place. Whenever it grew to be nigh uninhabitable, she would typically just crash at her boyfriend's for a while. And then? Then what? It doesn't clean up by itself. Just then I realized something. All this time I'd never thought to ask Daigo-kun if there was a lady in his life. I don't think there is, let's be honest.
大吾くん、彼女は？
いませんよ。
His reply was perfectly matter of fact. It was a little bit too quick in my opinion. Moments later I heard the kettle begin to whine.
俺、あんまりそういうの縁がないから。
Why? Because you're ghost hunting?
そうなの。
Daigo-kun walked out of the kitchen holding a mug of coffee. He offered it to me and I took it.
俺がいる研究室、女性が一人もいないんですよ。そもそも理系の学部だから女子は少ないし。
ちなみに専攻は？
Yeah, I wanted to ask that as well just now.
理論物理学です。
Okay, of course.
よくわかんないけど。
It's complicated, that's what it is.
それでいいと思いますよ。普通の生活には全く役に立たないし。
We had officially known each other for 4 days. I wasn't exactly looking to date him myself, but there was plenty I didn't know about him. Come on, don't be mean to him. And I imagine Daigo-kun felt similarly about me.
で、鍵を持ってるってことは帰るんですか？
そのつもりなんだけど。
Make sure to, let in enough light. He fixed me with a concerned look.
またついてきてもらっていいでしょうか？
いいですよ、別に。
God, I'm such a baby. Rolling my eyes at myself, I downed my coffee. Oh, you know what? I'd be a baby as well in that position. My apartment was perfectly quiet. Unwilling to linger for even a second longer than I needed to, I threw on a fresh change of clothes, then started packing. Against my better judgment, Daigo-kun had convinced me to pack a suitcase and bring it to his place. Once we got back to 301, I quickly tossed my stuff into his room. That's a sensible thing to do.
今日はどうします？
I thought for a moment.
少し行ってみたいところがあるの。
Nice. We're progressing the plot a little bit.
どこですか？
橋田総合病院。
The woman.
病院に？
He shot me a puzzled look as I turned on my heel and headed for the door. Just explain
ち
to
ょっと見
him.
舞いたい人がいるの。あ、その前に一件電話しなきゃ。
I took out my cell phone and dialed Uchiyama-san's number. Meanwhile, we headed down the stairs, and by the time we got to the parking lot, Uchiyama-san picked up.
もしもし、結城の姉の方ですけど。
ああ、どうもどうも。内山です。
As with before, his voice was a little more muffled. Though this time I could sense a bit of hesitation too. What's... why?
ちょっと待ってください。今外に出ますから。
すみません。お忙しかったですか？
あ、いや、今通夜の打ち合わせ中で。
お通夜？
First the funeral Shuko went to, and now this. Was it just that time of year?
ああ、すみません。今外に出ました。
Okay.
どうしました？
Okay, so I researched a little bit on the Steam page of this thing because I don't even know why, but apparently they tried to kickstart a sequel, sequel in quotation marks, to this game, which is essentially about Shuko, so Kaes' sister, and her trying to investigate this suicide that got alluded to earlier in the story and the funeral and stuff. So Shuko apparently has her own fair share of paranormal activities in her life somehow. But the Kickstarter was unsuccessful, so I don't know what will happen of that. Of course, if it does release, I'll definitely play that, since so far I do enjoy the writing style and realism in this story. If you can call this story about ghosts realistic, I mean, just the way they act most of the time is how real people would act, and not how someone in a story would act for the sake of suspense or something, The story by itself is good enough that you don't need to artificially increase fear and other bullshit, you know. I think you know what I mean. Anyway, let's continue.
この間うちのアパートのネタを買う予定だった方がいるって言ってましたよね。その方を紹介していただきたいんですが。
Maybe they'd have some new leads for me. That was my hope in asking. But Uchiyama-san's next words caught me entirely off guard. It's the dude that died.
ああ、それがそのライターが遺体で見つかりまして。
Wait a second, so how do you get to the tips in this one? You click it. Misty Publishing Editor. Are you serious? Found dead with multiple stab wounds. Ando Ryuichi-san, age 29, was found dead in his apartment earlier this afternoon by his co-worker, Watabe Koichi-san. Watabe-san told police he grew concerned after he was unable to get in touch with Ando-san for an extended period of time, at which point he decided to visit his residence. Why is it underlined in red? An autopsy determined that Ando-san died of severe blood loss caused by multiple stab wounds all over the front side of his body. Police are investigating this case as a possible homicide with multiple stab wounds all over the front of his body. It's just possible. It's not necessarily a homicide. It just could be. Ando-san worked for M-City's Misty Publishing as an editor. He rarely interacted with his neighbors and seldom came home. Nice. Really, really amazing. What? Nani?
実は今夜そいつの通夜なんですわ。
Oh, of course, it makes sense. What a coincidence, huh? Well, shit. Let's go to the hospital then.